Hello everyone, I'm CrypticFox, and welcome back for some more fun with Scrap Mechanic. Now, I'm actually going to be continuing on the build that I started the other day with my fancy garage type thing here, and I use the term fancy very loosely. So we started last time with just this starting wall here and the first door that we put in, and I've made a few changes between videos to try to improve on the performance of my garage door. So as you can see here, I've cut out the top layer to kind of reduce the weight a little bit, and I've swapped out the metal rollers that I had up here for these rubber tires. My main reason for doing that was just that they've done a sound update in Scrap Mechanic, and what I was finding was that when the door goes up, these little metal pipes here kind of spin constantly, and when the door is up and they're spinning, it ends up making this really irritating scraping noise the entire time the door is open. So I decided to kind of tweak it out a little bit, and we're going to use these actual rubber tires as the rollers along the bars at the top instead. If we go outside and hit the switch, you can see that it seems to work pretty well. Every once in a while, it gets to the top portion of the door, and it doesn't quite get all the way up there, but it's opening good right now, which is awesome. I've got pretty much just the look that I'm looking for. Down the road, I'd like to kind of make this more of like a section door and have it roll up, but I'm going to need a little bit more practice and experimentation with Scrap Mechanic before I can get to the point that I can do that. So we have our first door over on this side. I do need to put a second door over on this side now. I already have all the framework set in, so we're just going to really quickly put together the door. Oh, and I also got rid of that second arm on this side. I realized I didn't need something extra to lift it. The door was sufficiently light enough that I could do it without having to have a second arm pull it up. We'll also need to make some changes later on to put the switching system so that you can open the door from both inside and outside the garage, but for right now we're just going to have it set up so you open it from the outside. So in terms of the placement here, I need to look how many bricks up. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I need to go to 9 bricks down on this other side, so I have the same size control arm. And we're just going to get some metal here, pop that in, and I'm going to need to stick this right on our bearing there. And I want this to go down until the point where it's 9 up from the floor. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we're going to go there. We need another bearing on this side here so that I can have the properly hinged arm. And we'll go down to the bottom. Put a bearing in here, and we'll put a pipe in here as well. Okay, now I'm just going to quickly make the connection here for the control arms. So this will be number 1, this will be number 2, and in number 1 I want it to go to the blue side by 90 degrees. Whoops, overshot. There we go. And then in the other one we're going to go the red side 165. That should give us the lift that will get us the door up to the top. And I'm going to connect up this switch here as well, just so we can give it a quick test to make sure it's working properly. Now that I think of it, I should actually put this switch on the inside just while I'm building, and then I can move it to the outside after I'm finished. Otherwise, I'll have to keep running inside and outside all the time to keep checking that, and I don't want to do that. So we'll put the switch here, give it a quick connection, and then we'll give it a test. Theoretically. There we go. Why didn't that work? So I'm going blue side 90, red side 165. And you know what? I think I might have neglected to stick this properly on the bearing. Hey, there we go. That's what we want. It is a little gimmicky, or a little glitchy, in that you can see it kind of passes a little bit into the bar, but it does seem to work okay, so this will work fine. Alright, so we have that down. Now we basically just need to build out the door, and I'm going to build the door by actually attaching it to this spinner at the bottom, so hopefully it will stop moving around long enough to let me get some decent pieces. That's it. Our door should be functional now. Let's just double check and make sure everything's working as expected. It rolls up. Whoa, that went really fast. It rolls down. Okay, I'm going to need to adjust the speed on this a little bit. Let's go to the controller, and we're going to put this down to about half speed. There we go. Perfect. Alright, so we have our garage pretty much finished here. Oh, I'm going to move this switch to the outside. Because I think I'm predominantly going to want to be opening this when I'm outside this instead. And I'm going to put a roof on this afterwards, but I won't bother doing that during this video. I can put that on in between videos. So we have our little switch here. And I will connect that up to the controller. And it looks like I might have made a mistake on my wheel. Okay, we got everything sorted out with the door now. It's working properly. Slides up really nicely up above the opening there, which is just perfect. And then now you can see that we have the opportunity to kind of drive our little car in here if I can manage to steer it. Controls in this thing are a little bit rough. In one door, out the other. Not so much. Alright, I'm going to park this one inside the garage, and we can leave it here. Well, the controls are really touchy on this thing. Alright, we're going to leave this vehicle inside the garage, and we're going to build another one that has maybe a little bit more style to it, a little bit more support, and hopefully is a little bit more stable as well. So, let's get our jack stand out, and I want to build something that's kind of like a Jeep. Now, I'm thinking I want it to be a two-seater, so we want a left and a right side. I'm going to start working with wood initially, just because I don't want it to be too, like, ultra heavy. I want it to be good and stable, but I don't want it to be super duper heavy. So we're going to start off with like our center little platform here. And in order to get two seats side by side, we're going to need 8. It's going to need to be at least 8 wide. And I'm thinking that I want doors on either side, or at least a little section where you kind of step into it on either side. So I'm thinking about like 10 wide is what I have to work with. So that's 2, 3, whatever. I'll just make a base section here and we'll figure out the size of it. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're going to need 3 more on this side. 1, 2, 3, and we'll stretch that back. Alright, so this is going to be like the base core kind of thing of our vehicle. I'm just going to pick this up to get it better positioned on the stand. Alright, so that's going to be the core part of our vehicle. I'm going to put the seats on here just so we have a good frame of reference for the size that I'm working with as well. So let's get the steering in. Oh, I've already got that down below. And we'll use a passenger seat here. So we're going to have one seat here. Again, I want like 1 square in. And then I'm going to match the second seat next to it in there. Alright, so that's our basic framework there anyway. Now to do the front end of the vehicle and to do the suspension, I'm going to use some piping for most of that. And we'll do sort of a bit of a suspension setup. So I have off-road suspension here. I'm thinking I'm going to switch this to sport suspension for now, and we'll see how that works. If it doesn't work out very well, then I can always change it. We'll get rid of this. I don't need that. I don't need the switch right now. Let's look for those pipes. So there should be down here. We use this 3-way pipe. We'll grab a long pipe, and then we got the short pipe as well. Alright, so I kind of want the suspension to... I want to be able to put the suspension inside the vehicle a little bit. So I'm going to start off just by putting a couple long pipes up front here to get... So that front area that I'm looking at. Actually, I'm going to need this to be shorter. In order to get the suspension to work the way I want, I think I'm going to have it curve inwards so that I can support the wheels away in the right position on the vehicle without them sticking way out to the side. Let's get rid of... I'll get rid of the seat because I don't need it now. Alright, so we're going to put a bend in here. And we'll put a bend over here. And same thing here. I'm going to curve it back now. Actually, no, I'm going to use the short pipe here. And here. I haven't done a lot of experimenting with this, so this is a little bit of this is being built on the fly. I did look in a little bit to the different types of suspension that people are using for these vehicles. So this is based on something that I saw that way. But I didn't really plan out exactly how I was going to make this work on the front. I probably should have experimented a bit more before I jumped in here, but I hate to rebuild everything twice all the time. Alright, So we'll go like that. The reason I did that little upward bend there is I want to put the piping for the suspension right down here. Actually, I want to use the big wheels. I don't know how... this might end up looking too far forward. I might have to make some adjustments later, but... Oops, what did I do? Alright, so we'll go there and there. Oh, I missed. So... I think based on how long this is going to take, we'll probably build out the initial framework in this video. I missed again. And then I'll do some of the decoration and stuff afterwards to make it look a little bit more like a full-size Jeep. This is already looking too big. Nope, I just made a hole in my floor. I love the way the pipes and everything clang when they hit the ground. The physics in this game are neat. A couple times I had to slice a piece off. Or I sliced off a piece unintentionally. When I was doing those overhead riggings for the door, and it made this really loud clang on the floor, and I had to like weld it all back in place and rebuild. It was kind of neat. Oop, don't want that. Let's turn that. Then we're gonna go 2 out. I want a 3-way. There we go. 2 out again. This should give us enough room for the wider wheels, because I want to use the big wheels on here. Okay, so for the suspension part now, we're going to go up like this. So we'll go 2 up. And then we'll turn this way. I go 1 pipe out. And then we'll turn it downward. Like so. I am going to need to be able to steer. So let's raise this up a little bit so I can get underneath it. We'll put a bearing under here. On both sides. And then you can't put the shock, unfortunately, directly on the bearing, but I'll put a pipe under here. Put the shock on. And then I'm going to use a wooden block to place the wheels. Like so. I don't know if there's like any kind of like a tensile strength issue or anything with the materials you use. I know they definitely have a weight component, but I don't know about strength. So I'm kind of curious to see how that works. So that'll give us our basic support there. And I may need to change some of this piping up front to something else if I'm going to be able to kind of design the look of the vehicle around here. So let's put wood across the front, just because I want to be able to build off of it. Like so. That'll give me at least some sort of structure that I can build off of. I'm not going to build on it right now, but we'll leave it that way. We're going to need room for some engines in here as well too, but we'll get to that after. And then we're going to repeat this basically on the back to do the back end of the suspension. Alright, we have our basic framework in place. I think that in the end this is going to end up being a little bit too large on the back. I'll have to kind of correct for that. But this is how we'll generally have the suspension sort of set up on our new vehicle. And then we're going to need to do all the connections so that we can control this thing. So let's get the connection tool out and draw all of our connections. So I want the person in the seat to control the steering. Like so. Nope, I do need engines in here. Let's put a gas engine in this for now. So I think if we put the engine here in the middle, it should be relatively balanced out. Now the tricky part is that if I'm sitting in the driver's seat and no one's in the passenger seat, I might actually have an issue with ballast, but we'll figure that out as we go. So there's our basic engine setup, and then we'll connect this to each of the different tires. I'm going to do four-wheel drive on this, like so. Got to make sure all the wheels are turning in the right direction. Like that, and then I'm going to connect this to the driver's seat so that the engine will only start when someone's in the driver's seat. All right, let's take this for a little spin and see how it's going to play out. We might have to do some modifications to this. I think the suspension will be okay. It looks like it's holding up all right, and we'll hopefully the engine and everything will drive as expected. I got the turning going in the opposite direction to what I want, so I'm just going to quickly fix that. I don't really want backwards turning. There we go. Alright, my engine is super slow. I forgot to set the speed on that, so let's quickly adjust this. I'm not going to put too much power in it because I find that you end up pulling wheelies and just going crazy. This vehicle is not that heavy yet. We might have to crank up the power once we get a little bit more weight on it as we build out the whole frame. But it looks like everything is working just as I expected it to. Perfect. Alright, so we have a little bit more of a stable vehicle. Even with the added weight of me on the one side and no passenger on the other side, it seems to be handling it okay. It's not really off balance too much. So I think this will give us a really good base work to build out the rest of our Jeep. Oh, catch a little air. I think I'm going to want to probably raise my suspension up a little bit higher so the wheels sit farther down below the vehicle, because this is a little bit tight. Oh, and I think I'm also going to shrink the size of the suspension on the back a little bit so the vehicle's a little bit smaller and lengthwise, but I think overall this looks really good. Okay, so our test drive was successful, and we have a workable chassis here that we can continue building our Jeep on. Now, I've made a few other modifications here just in the quick little gap since we did the test drive. So I shortened the suspension, or the frame on the back here, rather, so that it doesn't stick out quite as far. I made the suspension a little less tall on both the front and the back so that it has a little better space for building the rest of the body of the Jeep around. But let's get busy and build out the rest of the Jeep, the look of the Jeep here now. I haven't entirely worked out exactly how I want this to look, so we're gonna have to kind of do a little bit of experimenting. But I think what I'd like to do is kind of box in the front of the Jeep here, similar to what you might see on like a normal Jeep that has, instead of an open back, like has a boxed in cab. So we're gonna do that. I've already added a little step bar on the side here that you can kind of climb up onto the Jeep using. And then I think on the side over here, we're going to have like a little like a wheel well flap thing that sort of sticks out a little bit. So I'm going to angle this up a little bit so we can get our wood blocks over top here. Now the only reason I'm really using wood is just that it happens to be a lighter building material. And I'm just going to frame in some stuff here roughly at the beginning that I can change as we go along to make it suit the look that I want to have at any rate. Alright, so just like that we have the basics of our Jeep all finished. Now we just need to put in some doors and we'll be pretty much ready to go. So I'm going to throw in a little switch here we can use to control this. And we're going to need a controller. I probably should have hid these in the back somewhere, but I'll find a place to put them afterwards. Let's put that over here. Okay, so we'll put a switch back here. And we'll put a bearing there that we can stick our wood on to make the door. So... Nope, that was glass. That's not what I wanted. Gotta make sure that I stick this right on the actual door that I've already started, because I want this piece to all be separate from the rest of it. Okay, so now we'll draw our little connection here. Now it looks like this wood is all joined, and that's probably not going to be ideal for me. So let's look at the tool to do the join. I already have it in my bar, so let's grab this. We'll draw a connection to this. Actually, I need a controller in here. There. And we'll do our joins, and we'll say this goes to there, this goes to there. And I want the door to swing in the red direction. I want it to go like 90 degrees out. Alright, let's test this out and see if our door works. If we hit the button. The switch is on a lift. There we go. Alright, so our door works. It looks a little funky, but we do have a working door. Close that. Alright, just like that we can climb in. Alright, I'm going to put some finishing touches on this, and I'm going to give it a quick paint job, and then we'll be right back. Alright, so we've got our Jeep freshly back from the paint bay, and it's pretty much all finished at this point. The whole body is all built out on the Jeep, and we've got it, give it a bit of a black and red paint job, so we could use some red for some accent colors. Turned out a little bit boxier than what I was kind of imagining when I was thinking about building it. And I might have to figure out a different way of doing the windows, because these little cubes make it look a little bit awkward. But I think for our first build of any significance, other than our garage and the doors in it, I think this turned out looking pretty cool. The Jeep, of course, has the two working doors that you can hit the button on, and the door opens up, and then you can climb in and close the door. And away we go. Now, it turned out really heavy. Even though I was using wood for most of the building parts. Oh, no, don't roll! Oh, all the way over. No. Alright. Drat. Well, it turned out really heavy, and the springs kind of bottom out, but it still works pretty good as long as I don't flip it over this way. I think later on I might have to add a second set of springs, but thanks everyone for coming and checking out the video. Hope you enjoy these, and that you come back and check out some more. I'm, as always, CrypticFox. And I will see all of you next time.